Well, good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're located on the planet. I'm Charlene Gunter-Duplessis, the Senior Director of the IPC Education Foundation. And with me, I have my colleague, Erin Burney, IPC Education Program Manager. A lot of our IPC student chapters know him. For those of you who are not familiar with IPC Education Foundation, please look us up. If you're a student, you want to get involved and learn more about the electronics manufacturing industry, please reach out to Erin. We are very fortunate to have a LinkedIn branding coach with us, Sonia Begum, and she is going to teach us and provide us with guidelines and tools how to land your dream role using LinkedIn. And as you all know, especially in today's situation with COVID, it's so important to have that presence online, and we're excited to learn. So Sonia, it's all yours. Before you begin, I also just want to say if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to use the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen and send your questions, and Erin will be able to manage it during as well as afterwards. So welcome, and let's start this great webinar.
Thank you for the introduction, Charlie. On today's webinar, we're going to talk about how to, use LinkedIn profile to get attention from recruiters as well as hiring managers to notice you and kind of develop your personal brand so that it drives your awareness and your authority in, let's say, a field that you want to be in, engineering, or whether it be engineering, data science, or a number of other careers. I've worked with clients all over the world, so I can kind of take this opportunity to teach you what hiring manager and recruiters are looking for when they look at your profile. So a little bit about me. So I'm a LinkedIn branding coach, and I do this as a side hustle, basically. And so I've worked with individuals on an individual basis to help them land a new job. Recently, when COVID-19 hit, I've worked with a lot of students. So a lot of students, some of the students were in Taiwan, UK, Canada, basically all over the globe. And so, but even with COVID, my students have been able to, land a role within their industry. So having a LinkedIn profile that's ready to go and will help you network in the digital age, like Charlene said, will get you there to your dream role. So LinkedIn right now has over 706 million members, and they're all over the globe with 200 countries and regions worldwide. So if you want a job in the US and right now you're in the UK, that's possible. All you have to do is network on LinkedIn to find the right connection, and they'll be able to get you in through referral. And sometimes you don't even need to network on LinkedIn. I've had offers from other recruiters reach out to me. Just recently, 3 or 4 recruiters reached out to me, and then I passed on the opportunity to others. So just having your LinkedIn profile ready to go with the tips and tricks I'm going to teach you through this webinar will get you noticed even when you're not thinking about switching roles or you're not thinking about the next opportunity. Just having that ready to go will help you tremendously. 55 job applications are submitted every second on LinkedIn. And every 7 seconds, there is a new LinkedIn hire. That's why LinkedIn is so important to have. So how do you get noticed when there are over 707 million people joining LinkedIn, and there is millions of people that are already on there, and they may have a bigger network than you? So what do? So if there's one thing that you should remember to this webinar is this thing. You are your own brand. So you have to develop that brand. And just like a company, you have to work on the messaging, on the colors and everything like that, because you are your own brand. So you have to learn to market yourself. Just like every other social network, at the end of the day, even though LinkedIn is a professional platform, it's still a social network, which means just like Instagram, just like Facebook, YouTube, and all these other platforms, you need to push out content. You need to network with other people, you need to add people, you need to go out there and kind of talk it up in order to get yourself noticed and build your own brand. So in order to get started, you must first have a LinkedIn profile. And, you know, having a couple of connections is also good. I know people that make a LinkedIn profile, but then they stop adding people. They just apply to jobs. They don't finish the profile. You know, they don't even start. So the first thing you need to do is get that LinkedIn profile ready to go. You know, put in the banner image, put in the profile picture, you know, have everything set to go. That way you can start. You know, you can't start running if you don't have sneakers on. You know, you can say every day, get motivated on, you know, starting to run, you know, have your water bottle and everything, but you need the sneakers. So that's essential. So having that LinkedIn profile ready to go is essential for you to get your dream role. You need to have it ready to go with all the things that LinkedIn says will get you there. Because I've seen profiles that don't have a banner image, or some profiles don't even have an experience section. How is someone going to hire you, or how is a recruiter going to reach out to you if you don't have those essential things ready? So it's important to just have your profile ready from the get-go. So first thing you want to have on your profile is a call to action. So a lot of the things that we'll go through are marketing terms that you'll see, because at the end of the day, you know, LinkedIn is a social network. So marketing things come in handy when you're networking on LinkedIn. So you need to have different call to action. So a call to action should appear in the following areas, your banner image. So for example, if you go to my profile right now, it'll say need help with LinkedIn, send me a DM. Since I specialize with helping people on LinkedIn, I tell people right away, this is what I'm doing, so send me a DM. So if you want to roll as a data analyst or something like that, you would say passionate about data analytics, you know, send me a DM if you'd like to talk more or something like that. You want to get the conversation going. So you want to have your CTA in the banner image. A lot of people from the get-go don't use a banner image. You know, I was one of those people a long time ago, a year ago, when I only had 62 connections and I didn't have a banner image because I didn't think it was that important. But having that banner image allows more people to reach out to you. I've had clients just look at the banner image and be like, oh, you look like a LinkedIn expert and you have all these connections and stuff like that. It just gives people a nudge in the right direction to reach out to you. Another place you should have your CTA or call to action is on your about section. So where can people reach you? So people can send me a DM or they can schedule using a scheduler on my website. So if clients need a specific service, they can reach out through there. And a lot of my leads come through my DM or the schedule section. So it's really important to have another place for recruiters and hiring managers to reach out to you. So usually what happens is if you don't have LinkedIn Premium, your third connections won't be able to reach you. So let's say a hiring manager has a role that they think you might be a good fit, but they can't reach out to you because they're your third connection. So LinkedIn automatically blocks them from sending you a message. So you want to have an email where people can reach out to you or message you. So it's important that you put an email or a phone number here. There has been numerous times where recruiters have called to me and I've answered the phone and they're like, we have a role for you, would you be interested? So that's kind of why it's important to have an email or a phone number so people can reach out to you. Another thing that you can do is put it as your headline. So headlines can be long. Usually people, what I've seen professionals do is they'll put, you know, data analyst at Tesla or something like that. But that won't get you noticed. So you want to have something else. Like for example, this person has DM'd me today to kind of find out about the services that she offers. So that's the option that you can use, a headline as a call to action. So another thing you want to do in your about section is, besides the CTA, you want to write a compelling story. So every brand has a story. So what's yours? A lot of people like Tesla because, you know, not only does the car do well, but there is a story behind Tesla of, you know, getting electric cars out there so it's not harmful to the environment. Same thing with, let's say, Keds. Keds was really popular back a couple of years ago because they were the first shoe brand to donate a shoe that you bought. So it had a story behind it. So you want to write a compelling story in your about section. You don't want to be too technical and just write the skills that you have. You want to write a story of why you're passionate about, the role that you want to go into. So you want to make it compelling, because when a hiring manager or recruiter is reading or scanning through your about section, having that something interesting, it'll be like, oh, I like her, or I like him, let me reach out to him. So it'll just make that extra level of difference. So keep that in mind when you're writing an about section, but don't make it too long-winded. So when you read a movie description, if it gets too long, you kind of check out. Just make sure it's compelling and short enough to get people's interest. Another thing that I see people overlook often is that they're not metrics driven. In people's experience section, they'll have a couple of things that they did in their role, but none of them have any analytical or quantitative results from their past experience. They don't say that they got the company XYZ results. So you want to keep those things in mind when you're writing your profile under your experience section. You want to make sure that everything is quantitative. What results did you bring in for XYZ company? When you interned at XYZ place, what was the result? And what was your performance indicator? Things like that. You want to make sure everything is always about metrics. With that in mind, you want to also look at your search appearances and profile views. You want to be metric driven, so you want to try to improve those numbers as you go. And that's how you'll grow. A bigger network means more reach for you. That means you'll appear at the back end of LinkedIn Recruiter that much more often so that people can reach out to you. So keep in mind your search appearances and your profile views and try to consistently increase those. Write them down. If they're, if they're 200 right now, that's a good start. If you're getting 200 search appearances and you have, let's say, 400 connections, but let's say you have 62 connections, but you're only getting 20 search appearances. That's not good enough for you to get noticed by a hiring manager or recruiter. You need to increase that number. Having a healthy 300 to 400 search appearances a week is good for you to get leads in through the door. Another thing is to have consistent brand imagery. Have your profile image and background banner look consistent. So pick a color palette, 3 colors, and then stick with that throughout your profile. It'll give you that consistent look and feel. So if you went to McDonald's, there's a consistent look and feel. If you go to a Starbucks anywhere in the world, there's a consistent look and feel of what you're expecting. So we're expecting kind of like the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're going to be an engineer or you're going to be a marketing person. Having consistent imagery just makes the profile look a lot better, and it shows that you know something about marketing, even if you're not in marketing. It's that attention to detail that people really like. One thing that's overlooked often is recommendations. So a lot of people, according to Grammarly, entry-level employees often overlook recommendations. So 24 give recommendation. Out of the individuals they surveyed, I believe they surveyed over 800. So entry level, only 24 gave recommendation and only 61, and that was the lowest number for entry level individuals. So you want to make sure that you're giving recommendations. That way people are willing to even give you recommendations. So if you're concerned that someone won't give you a recommendation, try by giving someone else a recommendation first, and then asking a recommendation in return. Having at least one recommendation helps you. So when a hiring manager or recruiter looks at your profile, they're able to see what kind of work that you've done. It's also important you can ask your professors for recommendations. You can ask anyone you know for recommendations. It just makes it a lot better. Also, when you apply to jobs using LinkedIn Easy Apply, recommendations always appear on the corner. It'll say this person has 2 recommendations, or this person has XYZ recommendations. So just having one puts you above the entry-level job applicants. And then the last thing after you get all those things ready is time to network. So after you get your call to actions ready, you have consistent brand imagery, you have a compelling story to tell, and you're metrics driven, now you can network since you have the basics of a profile ready. So 4 ways you can network is you want to add individuals from your industry on LinkedIn. You don't want to add random people. Like if you're an engineer, you shouldn't be adding someone like me in marketing. I mean, you can, but it won't help you in the long run. You want to add someone in the engineering field, so that way you can ask them questions. So let's say you are going into software engineering. You want to add another software engineer in technology. So let's say you want to work in Google or something. So you want to add a software engineer who's working for Google currently, who can give you advice on how to get in. So you can reach out to them. Even if they don't respond to you, at least if they're in your network, a recruiter from Google will be able to find you based on, second or third connection. So don't worry about not getting people to respond to you, but more so worry about the metrics. So if you sent out 10, if you sent out 10 emails to people to get them on the call, only one of them showed up, you got a 10%, return on the emails that you sent. So that's what you want to do. You want to keep on improving. If they're not responding to you, you need to figure out kind of why they're not responding to you. Was your email bad? Was it because you didn't start the conversation beforehand? Did they not know you? What was going on in that initial touch point? So you want to make sure people are in your industry so that people can start a conversation with you. And then you want to add comments to posts to spark a conversation. Sometimes people will add me, but I don't know who they are. So I won't add them back. Since I get, hundreds of connection requests in a day. It's hard for me to add someone when I don't know who they are. So you want to spark up a conversation before you add them. So comment on their posts, write to them in the comment section, anything to get them engaged first and then add them. That way you can network and kind of ask them for a meeting later on. And then write your own posts. So one way I grew my following to over almost 15K now followers strong. So you want to write your own posts that highlight your experience. So if you're a student, you can talk about the struggle you're going through trying to maybe land a role during COVID-19, or you can talk about software engineering. You can talk about data science if you want to go into data science and show off your skills in Tableau or Google Analytics or things like that. So you want to cater posts towards careers that you're looking to go into. You don't want to just write posts for likes and shares. So you want to make sure your posts are consistent with the branding that you have. So if you're someone who's in marketing, write posts about, social media marketing or, data analytics in the marketing. So be mindful of the posts that you're writing. They have to go with your branding or the career that you're in or the message that you want to send out to. Don't just write posts because you want to write posts. This isn't Facebook, Twitter, or any of those other channels. It may not be appropriate to post for certain things. Send emails, and finally send emails to start a conversation. Try to network with alumni and students that have graduated from your college. It's an easy way to get in. So if you have someone, for example, I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick. So if I added people in Rutgers, I can build a whole network of individuals that I can reach out to. And Rutgers has so many students across the entire globe. It's a huge network of people. So if you reach out to those people, they'll be more likely to talk to you. For example, I'm more likely to talk to a Rutgers student that reaches out to me than if they were a non-Rutgers student. So you want to kind of find managers or recruiters that have gone to your school and then add them. That's one way to network and kind of start the conversation. And you have something in common. You went to the same school. So some of the jokes will be the same. Some of the professors might be same and things like that. And then another thing you can do is join some groups. Although groups on LinkedIn are not as popular as on Facebook, they do sometimes help because you can access the network of the individuals that are in those groups. And you can send emails to those people that are in the group. So that's one way to network. So I know one way to send an email that you can copy and paste this whenever you want to add someone to your network. So something you can say is, "Hi, Sonia, and I came across your profile a few times, and I was very intrigued by your post on XYZ. So if this person authors posts and things like that, you want to mention something about their post. That way it relates back to them, and that way they respond to your one email. So you want to start a discussion about that, because people want to talk about themselves. So if you say that you were intrigued by XYZ post, you can start a conversation. And then say, wondering if we could connect at the end. So this is an email that you can use, and it'll make sure that people add you to their network. That's kind of it. I know we have a couple minutes to spare. So you can visit my website, soniabegum.co, for more helpful tips. I have a whole COVID-19 database. It has a list of companies that are hiring right now, so you can look through that. People have been adding it all the time, so it should be updated. You can also pick up a copy of my LinkedIn checklist, and for attending this webinar, you can use code webinar as for a 20% off discount until the end of September. So just wanted to say thank you for joining, and I'll take any questions now.
Thanks, Sonia. So we do have a couple questions. So I'll start at the top. How does the search option work in LinkedIn? Can you search employees of specific companies in order to network?
Yeah, so you can search by people, or you can search by content. So if you want to search by people, you'd assume you'd already know that person if you're searching by name. But let's say you want to search by a particular company, employees at a particular company, you'd go to, like, let's say Tesla's, instead of searching, go to Tesla's page. I'm using Tesla as an example because, you know, they're really popular right now. Go to the page and then see all the employees that are working for that company. And then you can add them from there, but don't just add them. See which ones maybe went to your school, or see which ones have the same kind of passions as you, or the same job title. So if you want to go into software engineering, maybe you find a software engineer that works at Tesla. So just go to their instead of searching for that person, just go to the company page and see the individuals that work for the company. And you'll be able to find people faster that way and be able to add them and network with them than going through the search option. Hope that answered the question.
I think it does. Thank you. I'm going to keep rolling through these. So what do you do when people don't respond to when you either send them a message or try to connect?
You know, the thing is, you'll be on that end at one point, because I was in the other end where people didn't respond to me, but now I sometimes don't respond to people. And that's because sometimes the messages are too salesy, or the messages are vague. So that means they're sending the same message to everyone. Or I don't know who they are. They've never interacted with my content, so I don't see a point where I would take time off my busy schedule to kind of have that conversation with them. So instead of doing that, if they don't respond, you know, sometimes you have to move on, but sometimes you have to change your tactic. This is where the metrics come in. If you send 10 emails and they were all the same, like they were boilerplate emails that you didn't personalize, and you only got one person that responded to you, well, now it's time to change something up. That means your email outreach is not good enough. So you need to change that. So sometimes it's important to kind of like suck it up and move it on, but sometimes you have to see the metrics behind it. Is it all the time they're not reaching back out to you, or is it only sometimes they're not reaching out to you? Because some people honestly get really busy and they don't respond. You know, other things are going on, or sometimes they respond and maybe, you know, months later that they respond. So you want to check, you know, what's going on. Is it your email outreach, or is it because that person really doesn't want to talk to you?
Okay. So the more specific and targeted you could be, the better the response would likely.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Right, and be like metrics driven, like I said. So keep in track, you know, what emails worked and what emails didn't work, and then kind of score them. Have an Excel sheet open and score them, which ones worked and which one didn't. And I can bet you the personalized ones worked a lot better than non-personalized ones.
Very good, makes a lot of sense. So I'll keep rolling. How do you optimize your profile if you are targeting multiple roles? For example, marketing and project management.
So the thing is, I do have project management on my profile as well. I don't target that, so I just leave it on there. So the thing is, when you're starting off, what do you love more? Is it marketing or project management? You can't really target for both of them because they're two different roles. But the thing is, you can have a job that's in marketing that handles all the marketing projects. So, you can really combine those two roles, but at the end of the day, you'll probably have to decide which one takes precedence over the other one. You can keep all your project management things in the profile under experience section or under education. Like, for example, I still have all my project management courses that I took under my certification courses, and people still reach out to me. So it's not a dead end, but you just have to make sure which one is your priority. Is it project management or is it marketing? Or do you want both? In that case, you may have to do some legwork and actually apply to the jobs instead of recruiters just coming to you.
Okay, very good. And would you recommend that people get LinkedIn Premium? Is it worth it?
I've never I don't know anyone that has gotten a job just by using LinkedIn Premium. You have to do a lot of the legwork. So just spending the, I don't know, $25, $30, it's up to you. If you're getting it for the courses, a lot of my clients have said, the courses are good. That's why I use it. But a lot of my clients, none of my clients have said, I use LinkedIn Premium and I got a job. It just doesn't work like that. So if you correlate getting LinkedIn Premium with getting a job, it's not going to happen. So you kind of have to separate the two. But if you correlate LinkedIn Premium with knowledge, then, go for it. But you also want to be careful if you have a job and you get LinkedIn Premium, it may raise a red flag. So you got to make sure you unhide that. Hope that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, it does. Thank you. Have you worked with international students in the United States looking for visa sponsorship? Any tips?
No, I have not worked for visas or sponsorships, but I have worked with international students they're looking for jobs within their own country. So for example, in the UK, they're looking for jobs within the UK. Or Canada, they're looking for jobs in Canada. The Taiwanese students that I worked with, she was already in the US and she was going to a US program. So in that case, if she needed a visa, she would need to apply to some of the jobs. So yeah, I don't have direct experience dealing with that. Usually my clients have all been within their own country. But in that case, you would need to make sure you are doing a lot of the legwork and making sure the jobs you're applying to specifically say they're willing to sponsor. And most of the time, larger companies will sponsor you. You just need to make sure that you do all these things that I talked about, and also you network and be the best that you can in that particular field to get in.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, thank you. Okay, is there a way we can include webinar participation or recent involvement with conferences in our LinkedIn profile?
Webinar, I know there's certification. I don't think there is webinar participation. I think people who do webinars are consistently learning. So I don't see a point in adding that in. I would more so do a certification or something like that in LinkedIn within the LinkedIn network and put in the certification instead of a webinar. I don't think they add that much value.
Okay. All right, good to know. Thank you. Are there any other professional social media platforms that you have tested which may be worthwhile?
I think LinkedIn is the only professional social media, but if anyone's out there, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is any other professional platforms out there. I mean, there are platforms out there, but most of the time it's just LinkedIn. But it is important to be professional on other platforms because you can easily get fired from your job because you did something unprofessional. For example, there was a girl on TikTok saying that she was going to stab All Lives Matter supporters, and she immediately got fired from was it Deloitte or something? She works for one of the big companies, Deloitte, and she got fired from the company because she said that. So it's important to be professional in all social media, not just one, not just because you can't pick and choose. That's why it's so important to have that branding part. You can't just pick and choose what kind of person you are because you're off that day. And it doesn't work like that anymore. So you need to make sure we're professional on all platforms, but LinkedIn would be the professional platform.
That makes sense. A lot of engineering students, they have to show off, they don't have to, but it's good to show off projects or work you've done. And I think a good parallel, like you have a personal website where you showcase a lot of those things and you show your website on LinkedIn. So that might be a good avenue also.
Yeah, and I know some people have, was it GitHub? GitHub, and I think there's another one where they can showcase all their projects and things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are good platforms to use. But definitely a website is good because it shows off that you're able to set up the website and things like that.
Very good. Okay. And next question, how do you find decision makers? And how will we know who to contact to get through the online application and potentially an interview?
So how do you find, so one thing you can do is if you're applying for a job, like let's say in a bigger company, it may be harder to find a decision maker. But at the same time, if you do enough due diligence, you should be able to find them. For example, if you have a job in Tesla's marketing department or something like that, you can find everyone that works in Tesla's marketing department. You can kind of figure out the structure by going through LinkedIn. You can also go through the search on content and see who's posting what to kind of figure out the structure. And then you can start adding these people and start having conversations with them in order to get, through the door. Another thing you can make sure to get an interview is apply on both places, apply on LinkedIn and then apply on the website as well. I've had someone who applied on LinkedIn and then applied on the website, but they got to respond right away from the website, because when you apply on the website, sometimes it goes through the web team and then the web team sends it to HR. So it's kind of like a faster way to get to HR. In some cases, it may not be in all cases, but in some cases that does happen, and then you get an email right away. So that happens. But otherwise, I would say you need to have a referral, and the way to get that is, check based on the job listing, which department is this in, and kind of figure out the department structure. And that's kind of easy to figure out if you go through the whole due diligence of mapping it out. And things like that, and then making sure you're getting in touch with them, and also making sure that you're active and things like that. So hopefully I didn't go on a rant, but hopefully that answers the question.
No, it makes sense. Do the work to figure out who you should speak to.
Yeah, exactly, because it won't be straight, because bigger companies, it won't be straight, because even if you find the marketing department, you won't be able to find the group of individuals that are actually working on that team. Because there is maybe an America arm, there's a North America arm, there's an arm in the UK, and then you could get all, messed up. So bigger companies definitely difficult, but eventually you'll be able to do diligence.
Makes sense. Okay, so how important are endorsements in terms of showcasing your skills?
So one thing I've learned in my current role is that you can do ad targeting based on skills. So in the back end of LinkedIn ads, some companies are targeting you based on the skills you put. So I want to say it's really important that you get those skills, the right skills. Sometimes people have the wrong skills. Like, for example, people will put PowerPoint as a skill on LinkedIn. It's not important. No one is looking for someone who's able to do PowerPoint right now. So it's important that you add in those technical skills within the skills. So that way companies are targeting you for ads, they can find you. So one, that helps with you getting the right ads so that you can apply to some of these jobs. Because I've had a commenter who said she applied to a job that was the ad and then she got the job. So, those ads are targeting. So it's really important you get the right skills on there, and then people to endorse those right skills. Don't make people endorse wrong skills. That's not really helpful. So
No,
it is important because, yeah, if people are if LinkedIn ads is using it, I'm 100% sure on the back end, LinkedIn is using it for their algorithm.
Okay. So pay attention to the ads that target you as an individual. Good to know. How do you maintain your connections beyond the initial add and follow?
I would say you need to consistently engage with them by posting. You can also, if you have one-on-one connections with some people, you can check in during the holiday season, or even during a time like this during COVID-19. I've checked in with my clients, sending them how's everything going and things like that, kind of like that. If you want to check in with people, that's also good. So posting and the DMs.
Okay. Do you have any particular system?
System for what?
for follow-ups and continued connections?
No, whenever someone pops into my mind, I usually send them a DM. So that's usually how I do it. You know, so one day
Okay.
you're thinking, oh, how is, Tom doing from XYZ? So you just message them. I mean, there's no point in thinking about something and not messaging their person. There's a reason they came into your head all of a sudden. So you might as well, pick up your phone and just give them a quick message, because I think that's when it's most important. So just don't make it like, I know some people hire VAs to do this. Don't do that. If someone pops into your head and you need to keep that connection, then just message them.
Okay, very good. How do you explain gaps in unemployment? Is that something recruiters would be off by?
Yeah, during COVID-19, a lot of people have gaps now. So if you're talking about gaps for COVID-19 and things like that, one thing I posted about recently was coming up with a COVID-19 narrative. So basically the narrative would be, what did you do during this time period? Were you, how did you improve yourself? How did you take something so negative and stressful and just awful situation and make the situation better? So you have to come up with that narrative on your own. And I do talk about it on my website. So if you go to my website, soniabegum.co, it kind of walks you through on how you can make that narrative to explain that, that gap and what qualities and skills that you should put in there to impress the hiring manager.
Okay, very good. We have an individual that submitted a question. So they created an online website that helps students academically, okay? Would that go in their projects or work experience, and how do you differentiate between the two?
Was this project related to a role that you're applying for? Because some people will put in projects that don't add any skills to whatever they're looking for, and that may be off. But you can put it in. I would not put it in experience. Experience section, people use it the wrong way, which bothers me, and I assume it bothers recruiters too. So under the experience section, there should be no projects. There should be no unpaid gigs, and there shouldn't be any anything that doesn't make sense. So under experience section, it should be things that people paid you to do. So an experience that people paid you to do, that if someone does a background check on you, that employer appears on your background check. That's how I explain it to my clients who add in a lot of projects or jobs that they've done or companies that they've come up with. But, when someone does a background check, they won't be able to find those companies. So that's kind of what you want to put under the experience section. Anything else you can kind of fit into, other sections on LinkedIn, or you can put in your about section if it makes sense to do that. So hopefully that answers your question. But
no, that's
don't make
a
it
perfect
too,
response. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't make it too, if it doesn't make sense, just don't put it. I used to be an assistant. My freshman year of college, I worked as an assistant for a women's and gender studies. I don't have that anywhere on my LinkedIn profile because I'm not looking for a job as an assistant. So you need to make sure whatever you're putting on there makes sense. Because at the end of the day, the algorithm is picking up those keywords. So you want to make sure, you're not throwing off that algorithm.
Makes sense. Thank you. How important is it to add your mobile number to LinkedIn?
Oh, it's very important. People will call you. But have a different number. So I have a Google Voice number, and then I have my actual number. So you want to make sure, you have two numbers. So you can just get a free Google Voice number, and it'll transfer you over to your actual phone number. So that way no one actually has your real number. So that's one way to do that.
I've never heard that. That's good to know. Thanks. So how do you message hiring managers to get, this is wordings off. Okay, so it's a question about software engineering. And how do you message the hiring managers to get a response?
Yeah, so if there's a job posting from a hiring manager and they don't know who you are, you should not message them for the job that you want. That doesn't benefit them. Usually you won't get a response. You have to think about what's in it for them. If there's nothing in it for them, you will not hear a response. So when people send me resumes, when I get random DMs of resumes or I want an internship, can I work with you? I'm not going to respond because there's nothing in it for me. You know, you may be a great intern and things like that, but there's nothing in it for me. So you need to make sure what's in it for them. So ask that question before sending a DM to a hiring manager. What's in it for them? You know, so just keep that in mind when you're sending a person. I really want this job. I'm a great fit for it. It's all about I. What's in it for them? You know, think about it that way.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Do you recommend utilizing hashtags to get more visibility in your profile or in your posts?
Hashtags for posts is great. I don't know where you'd put it on your profile because it's not very being searched. So definitely for posts, not for your profile.
Okay. If you were a student and you've only had a couple professional experiences, but some other jobs like lifeguard or swimming instructor, how do you put those on your profile? Should you keep?
I would.
Positions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would not keep those. They don't really fit into the overall narrative. So like branding wise, you want to make sure it fits into the overall narrative. Like I said, you know, I worked as an assistant for a semester in the women's and gender studies. I never want to be an assistant in my entire life, so I don't put that role. So it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to be a lifeguard, hey, that makes sense. You want to put that, but that's not a professional experience. So I wouldn't put that. And if you want to be a software engineering, having a lifeguard role may not fit to the overall, you know, narrative. Instead, you know, doing an internship may fit in that narrative. So less experience is sometimes better. More experiences is not always good. So you don't want to come up on LinkedIn search engine for a lifeguard because people are looking for lifeguards on LinkedIn, you know, to hire them as a part-time worker. So you want to make sure, again, you don't want to throw off the algorithm in a different way. You want to make sure, you know, the narrative adds up to what the algorithm is doing. Because at the end of the day, a real person is not reading your LinkedIn profile. Basically, a computer is. So you want to make sure everything matches up and it tells a story. Like, why is the lifeguard role there? Is it adding to my software engineering role or the career I want to go in? You know, so you want to make sure the overall it adds up to a bigger story.
So if you were a freshman or a sophomore and you haven't had an internship or direct experience with your future profession, how do you make a profile that gets viewers?
Yeah, so I have two siblings that are in that same boat. So currently both of them are sophomores and they're in engineering. So they need to look for internships, but they don't have any prior experience besides they do have a job in their schools. So you want to make sure you leverage your school. So you want to go to your school's career center instead of looking on LinkedIn, look in your school's career center. So email them. You know, you're paying thousands of dollars for your school to have these services. So make sure you take full advantage. They have alumni. They have a huge network. They can get you into an internship. You don't need any experience. And you don't need to be always on LinkedIn. I mean, it's good to be on LinkedIn, but sometimes you can leverage outside things if you don't have the experience. Or, you know, if the LinkedIn algorithm is not working for you, if LinkedIn in general is not working for you, then you need to, you know, call your school's career center. Get in touch with them. Ask them, you know, what can I do with my profile? What can I do with my resume? You know, how can I get roles? You know, where can I get an internship? Can I get a part-time role right now? There are internships on LinkedIn under volunteer. Can I get a volunteering experience right now? And things like that. So that's one way to start. And once you get the ball rolling with the career center, you'll be able to kind of get more leads through the door. So you want to make sure you're always on top of things. Okay,
very good. And you mentioned volunteering. How do you showcase those volunteering skills?
There's a volunteer section that you can put those in.
And if you did a volunteer internship or something like that, would that go in experience or volunteer?
If they do a background check, they won't be able to find that volunteer experience. So I would say it wouldn't go under experience. That's kind of my litmus test. If they do a background check, will they find that volunteer experience? No, they won't. So you want to make sure you don't want to put that there.
Only if you were actually employed there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I feel like I've got a question here, but I think we answered it. Do we have any other questions from the crowd? Post in the chat or the Q&A. Nothing's coming through.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. This was great, Sonia. Thank you so much. We recorded the session, and so I will be in touch with you to share the details of the link. But your 20% discount that you are offering to those that attended the webinar, that is great. So I hope everybody will be using that. What is the process for them if they reach out to you?
You can DM me, or you can, I usually always respond to LinkedIn DM, so you can add me on LinkedIn and DM me. And since I'm on LinkedIn's Pro Finder, you'll be able to DM me without having LinkedIn Premium. Or you can message me on soniabegum.com, and you can send a message that way. Or you can email me. My email is on my profile as well, so you can probably go to my LinkedIn page and kind of have one-stop shop of everything you need there.
Perfect. And this 20% discount, what will it offer the attendees?
So you can pick up a copy of my LinkedIn checklist. Also, you can DM me for my other services. And if you need a LinkedIn profile revamp or a resume, we can do that and give you a 20% off discount.
Great.
So extending that to my other services as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are posting, thank you for hosting it. Everybody said so far that they've learned a lot. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks, Sonia.
Thank you, guys. It was
And
great having you guys.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks for all the questions and the chat messages. So this will be posted on LinkedIn, and the slides will be there as well. So thanks everybody for joining, and please share that with your friends when it gets up and running.
Thank you.
Super. Have a great evening. Bye.